So, I said I wasn't going to do more videos, but I had an emotional breakdown yesterday, almost directly after uploading the first video, so here we go again. And today I guess I'm just kind of going to ramble about anime, cause I am alone in this stupid room, and I don't want to be left alone with my thoughts, because that's how you end up with mental breakdowns. Is you sit alone and you think too much on your place in the universe, and you feel small and worthless, and I don't want to do that anymore. So here we go. I'm just going to talk about anime and manga. I'm kind of just going to go down this list that I have, like 2, 3, I don't know how long ago anymore. I made a list of anime that I wanted to watch or manga to read, and I also included things that I had already watched, had already seen, read, stuff like that. So I'm just kind of going to go down the list and say, well, here's something that I have dabbled in or whatever, and give like a quick opinion on it, whatnot. So first up on the list is Captain Harlock, which I don't have much experience with. I only have a little. I've read a handful of beginning chapters of the manga. I've seen a handful of the first handful of episodes. This is one that was recommended to me by my Dama. It's a much older anime. I believe my Dama defined it as like one of the first anime, which that's really cool. It's a neat series about pirates in space, and I don't know if it continues all the way through, but at least where I am, we are fighting blue alien women, and they are terrifying. And they burn, and that's really cool. Going down the list, Gangsta. Gangsta, I haven't watched any Gangsta, but I read some of the manga, and the site I was reading the manga on got taken down due to copyright issues, I think, but I don't remember the exact reasons. I had like 6 sites I was reading on, and then like half of them got taken down. But Gangsta is... I'm not sure how to define Gangsta. It's a very brutal series, but also has its softer moments. Very interesting characters, very interesting concepts. I want to find it again so I can keep reading it. Because I really liked the relationships between the characters and the politics of the world that was being built. It was fascinating to read, just as another writer, to see this world that being built that I could conceivably see being built up in this world. This system of politics and drugs and gangs, and it was really cool. Food Wars. Not a fan. If I want porn, I'm just going to go watch porn. And I know that's not the point of Food Wars, but I disliked it. I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I was also maybe slightly high on marker fumes because I forgot to open a window. I got to, I think, like episode 7, and I said, I can't anymore. I can't. This is stupid. I came because it looked like it would be a cool alternative to the baking shows I've been watching a lot lately. But it's not. It's just porn. It's porn, but it's not porn. And it needs to make up its mind whether or not it's a cooking show or a porn series. And I dislike this. The characters all felt very flat, and there was no challenge to the main character. He just kind of flew through everything, and that I didn't like it. End of story. Going down the list. These are in no particular order. It's kind of just like the order I heard about them or remembered that I had dabbled in them, and then they were shoved on the list. It's a very long list. There is a lot of stuff in between the things I am saying most of the time. That I'm just not going over because I don't know enough about it. I haven't seen it, haven't read it, whatever. Eye Shield 21. Eye Shield 21 is It's a sports anime, and I don't like sports. I hate sports. I have a very bad relationship with sports. But iShield 21, I began reading on a whim. I could not tell you what whim it was, but it was something I did, and I found I really enjoyed it. And most sports movies and things that, I was like forced to watch throughout high school and middle school, I really hated. They kind of all had the same problem that I have with most American cultures, is it all feels the same. It's all very cut and paste. Just replace so and so's name with this name, change the color of the girl's hair, things like that, and it all feels the same. But not anime. Anime is always weird, always wacky, and I feel like no matter what, I'm going to find something new. And iShield 21 it's a series about a Japanese high school's American football team, and it's about the games they play, the practice they go through, and the relationships between the characters, and the characters' own personal growth as they go, and how the sport helps them come to realize their full potential and what they want to do in life. And that's something that these like football movies that I was forced to watch in like 7th grade English class were trying to do, and they just kind of failed because it was just kind of football movies for the football kids. Directly after iShield 21, I have down Magi, which Magi Labyrinth of Magic, Magi Kingdom of Magic, things like that. It started with me watching the show on Netflix with my brother. I remember because we were both curious, because the names of the characters, we recognized them, and we were like, oh hey, those are 1,000 Arabian Nights names. Is this 1,001 Arabian Nights anime? And no, not exactly. It draws a lot of elements and inspiration from that, but it's not that. It's more. I have watched both seasons of the anime, and I read the manga to completion, and I really liked it. It was fun. I liked the characters. I liked how they grew. I liked how much they made me think, and how my emotions about each character would flip-flop from one second to another. I will say I don't care for the spin-off series that focuses on Sinbad, one of the characters in the series, simply because, for one thing, I don't like him, and then for another, it didn't need the Sinbad spin-off. It was fine as it was. And honestly, he didn't need glorification. His ego was big enough as it was. Attack on Titan, I really liked at first. I started with the anime because my brother dragged me into it, and at first it was really cool, but then I started reading the manga and I started getting ahead, and it was really cool at first because it was humanity fighting for its life against these man-eating giant monsters that looked human, that almost had these human behaviors but were not. And then afterwards it came to this, spoilers for anyone who hasn't, gotten to that point, it's humanity versus humanity again. It's just fighting wars over racial issues, over religious issues, and it felt too real. And if I'm going to be, watching something, reading something, it's to escape reality, it's not to come back to reality. So I disliked that, and I kind of dropped Attack on Titan. Just kind of going to go down the list of some of these, because some of these don't really need any introduction. There's Death Note, and Death Note is a big one. Death Note was one of my first ones, if I remember correctly. Durarara, which I liked at first, but I'm thinking I'm kind of falling out of it. It still has a lot of really cool characters, a lot of really cool concepts that I really like, but I couldn't even tell you the point that I started falling out of it at. Blue Exorcist, which again I've kind of fallen out of. It was really cool at first, great concept, lovely characters, beautifully animated. Beelzebub. That's one a lot of people don't actually know about when I talk about it. It's an anime or a series, because I guess there's a manga, but I've never found it. About this delinquent high schooler who finds a baby and he starts taking care of it, and he learned that it's not just any baby, it's a demon baby. Specifically, like the prince of the underworld, one of the princes of the underworld, and now he's being tasked with raising this baby to wipe out humanity and stuff like that. And it's a comedy. It's a comedy. It's funny. It's funny as all hell, and I probably am gonna rewatch it sometime. Sailor Moon kind of needs no introduction. That Sailor Moon was my first anime, introduced to me by my Dama. Tokyo Mew Mew came after Sailor Moon. It was when I was in a magical girl phase. Full Metal Alchemist actually came directly after those two. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Akira is another old thing, and I was told by my Dama that if I was going to watch anime and if I was going to be obsessive with anime, then I had to watch Akira, because anime as we know it today would not be the same without Akira. And I'm told that the Akira movie only covers like the first book or something like that, which that I heard that and I was like, wait, what? So if I can find the manga or whatever, because I guess it's a manga, I'm definitely going to try to read that. One Punch Man doesn't really need much introduction, I don't think. I stopped reading not that long ago. I can't remember why. Maybe just because I was bored, or because school picked up, possibly. I don't remember, but One Punch Man, when I first heard of it, I didn't like the concept of a hero who can beat everything with one punch. Because it just seemed stupid. But then I was kind of forced to sit down and watch an episode, and I was like, oh wait, this is excellent. Because the whole thing, for one thing, it's an overpowered character, but he's handled beautifully. And the way it's structured, Saitama was the original main character, but now it's like he's just kind of conflict and everyone else is sort of the main character, and he's there to help them grow and things, and it's wonderfully written, and I love it. Devil is a Part-Timer, that's another comedy. It's about kind of the demon king of an alternate universe finding himself in like modern day Japan, and he doesn't have any of his magic or anything, and he's forced to get a job at in that universe it's McDonald's, so McDonald's, and it's just cute and silly. The manga goes much farther than where the anime is at. I stopped reading that one too, though, simply because it started devolving. And it's a problem I have where things start to devolve, they go too far, and it's like, why didn't you stop while you were ahead? Future Diary is one I watched back in my emo phase, where I was all about blood and gore and stuff. And so Future Diary was perfect for that. Because it was, well, for anyone who doesn't know Future Diary, it's a competition between, 13 contestants to see who can become the god of the new world, and they had to all kill each other, and the last one standing would be the winner. And the way it worked was like everyone had a diary that they kept religiously, and that diary, when the game started, took on like magical properties and started telling them the future, things like that. And that's really neat idea. I've never seen anything like that even to this day, other than Future Diary, and I think it's just because it's such a hard thing to implement well, but Future Diary did it excellently. Dramatical Murder, which is an anime based off of a visual novel. It's gay. It's near future dystopia. It's not the most original thing, but I like the characters. The characters are all really nice, and there's some interesting representation among the characters that I don't really see very often, and I really liked that. I really appreciated that. One of the characters has cognitive insensitivity to pain, meaning he can't feel pain, and that is a real condition. That is a real thing that exists in the world, and it's not something you ever hear about. But this character, one of the interests of the show, he has it, and it's something that makes like the other characters worry about him, because if he goes and he gets shot, he's not going to realize it because he can't feel it, and that was really cool. And then there was also, even though this is a Japanese game, there was also a Native American character, and that was just, damn, that was nice. Because, I mean, let's be real, American stuff doesn't give Native Americans enough screen time at all, period. Winter Cicada, which was essentially gay porn. Sword Art Online, which I didn't really like, but I've seen it. Soul Eater, which I've only seen the anime for. Black Butler. Black Butler I have an interesting relationship with. It's not my favorite. I like the characters, I like the dynamics of the characters. I have not read much of the manga. I have like the first 3 books. I have seen season 1 of the anime and season 2 of the anime. I do not accept season 2 as real, as canon. I see it as optional. I didn't like it. I didn't like the new set of characters that was introduced. I felt season 1 was good. I felt it had, here is the premise, here is the characters, here is the journey, and it ended perfectly. I didn't feel like season 2 was needed. It felt like the franchise was good and it made me money, so we're going to keep going. And I hate when franchises do that. And then we have like 6 different things that are just like all gay porn. Gay porn. Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet is one my brother and I watched together on Netflix, I think. It's not a Netflix original or anything, but it's this really nice anime about the future, about space and the ocean and squids. And it's got mechs and belly dancers, and it has one of the top 10 saddest anime deaths of all time, in my opinion. Sad but badass. I mean, I never thought I would cry that hard for an AI. Maybe one day I'll do like a video on my top 10 anime deaths and why they were top 10. Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann is kind of, okay, this is gonna be cheesy as all hell, but Gurren Lagann is kind of the anime that saved me. Because back in, this was like late middle school, early high school, I was super depressed. I hated myself. I hated everything and everyone. I didn't really see the point in doing anything, so I was very lackluster in everything I did. And then my brother started showing me this anime, this mech anime, and after watching it, I kind of just perked back up. And I don't know what it was about Gurren Lagann specifically that made me perk up, that made me feel better, but it definitely turned things around for me. And is also kind of part of the reason why I like mech anime so much. Cause oh, good grief, Gurren Lagann is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, you should. I believe it's on Netflix, though some of the episodes have been tweaked and modified to meet, like, freaking censorship, whatever, because there's some gratuitous boob involved. The Hot Springs episode was heavily modified in the original. If you can find Gurren Lagann somewhere else that has, like, the original Hot Springs episode, go watch the original Hot Springs episode, not the one that's on Netflix. Gurren Lagann is beautiful and amazing and dramatic and life-changing. Beyond that, Digimon, watched Digimon with my siblings, Digimon Adventures 2, Digimon Digital Monsters, Digimon Fusion. That was just kind of, like, the fun thing to watch with my siblings. Kiss Him, Not Me was a really nice comedy rom-com thing. I have not watched it, I have only read it. It was cute and silly, and I resonated with the main character a fair bit. And it was a fun journey to kind of go through and see how all the various love interests were maturing over time. And I'm not usually one for rom-coms or slice of life or anything, but Kiss Him Not Me is sweet. Hetalia, which I was dragged kicking and screaming into. My best friend started texting me the other day saying it's coming back, and I'm just sitting here going, oh god, no. It's almost sad, however, how I learned more about world history through Hetalia than I did through my high school curriculum. Which that's just so sad. There are wars I didn't know even happened that I learned about from this goofy anthropomorphized country anime that I didn't learn about in my school education. And these weren't like piddly little border spats between people. These were like great big huge world-changing wars that I didn't know a thing about. And usually I'll be one to preach that we don't need to learn things like that in school. That we should be learning like how to balance checkbooks and change tires, get jobs, do our taxes, things like that. But if you're going to be teaching me, world history and stuff like that, at least teach me, more than, oh, America is the greatest. Because no, America is not the greatest. America fucking sucks. Tiger and Bunny is one that I watched and really liked, because it's for anyone who doesn't know Tiger and Bunny, it's almost like it's somewhere between X-Men and Boku no Hero, because it's got like a small selection of the population is essentially mutants and has these superpowers, and then there's also the professional hero aspect. It's a lot of fun. It's got very dark and gritty moments, but it's also got these cute, lighthearted moments. And there's like, I don't know if I would call it coming of age, but like spiritual awakening or what. But there's some very great moments for all of the characters. And it was sort of the first introduction I had to the concept of like professional heroes getting paid to do hero work and things like that. And that was cool. I liked that. Boku no Hero, which I started and it was super cool, but I recently tapped out of because there is almost no growth among any of the characters whatsoever, and the main character is breaking all the laws of the universe, and not even in a well-written way. His superpower is plot armor, and it's a lovely art style. I like the variety among the characters and their designs, the uniqueness of some of the superpowers you see in it. It's just dull, though. Like, it would be so much better if we had more emotional and personal growth among each of the characters, but the character with the most personal and emotional growth that I have seen is the main bad guy, and I hate his guts. It had the Boku no Hero had the potential to be really great, but it's just poorly written. Kill la Kill, which is goofy action comedy with nudists and bikinis and boobs, and it was funny and action packed, and it made me laugh. Our Lord and Savior Iragamagori descending from the heavens. It has these really cool character designs and dramatic. It's by the same studio that does Gurren Lagann, and you always know when it's a Studio Trigger animation, because it'll just be wild and over the top and flashy, and they also make all these references to their own work. And also they have no qualms about, like, embracing their own bullshit. and if it's Studio Trigger, I have yet to find a Studio Trigger thing that I dislike. I highly suspect that if it's Studio Trigger and I watch it, I'm going to love it. After Kill la Kill, there's Vampire Hunter D. Vampire Hunter D is another old one. I got one of the Vampire Hunter D novels, and my Dama got super excited because she said she had thought that they no longer printed Vampire Hunter D in English. So she and I are now working to get, like, the complete Vampire Hunter D novel collection. But I've seen both of the movies, and I prefer Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. But it's not like I dislike the original. It's I don't know. Vampire Hunter D is apparently an inspiration for a lot of modern anime and stuff. Like, I told my brother was telling Dama about this one anime he was watching, Parasite or something where, like, the guy's hand was possessed and could shapeshift, and my Dama looked at him and said, "That sounds like a ripoff of Left Hand." And now I've seen Vampire Hunter D. I've read Vampire Hunter D, and I know who Left Hand is. I have to agree, it does sound a little bit like a ripoff of Left Hand. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I have read parts 1 through 7. 7? I started on part 8, but I couldn't get behind it. I was like 20 chapters in, and I just put it down and said, I can't. I don't like it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is wacky and wild and out there, and it's something I avoided for years on end because of the fandom. I do that a lot. I tend to avoid things with ugly fandoms, because if you have... I know that's not fair to the work, to the creators, but if you have an ugly fandom, I don't want to be stereotyped as part of that fandom. I don't want to be lumped in with such an ugly fandom. I don't want to be part of something that made such an ugly fandom. So I avoided JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for years, and I only got into it like a year ago, I think, about something like that. But here I am, I'm into it. My favorite part is part 5, Golden Wind. However, my Joestar, as people say, is probably Joseph. I like Joseph. Joseph Joestar he has all these character flaws, and he's not a good person, but he's the most human out of all of them, in my opinion. Jonathan will always be, like, the best Joestar, but my Joestar is Joseph, simply because he's he's the easiest to relate to. He has all these problems, and he ages, and we watch him age, and he goes through all these trials and tribulations, and he reacts in these very human ways, these very normal, natural ways, and a lot of the Joestars just don't do that. I like Joseph Joestar. Joseph Joestar is my Joestar. And then I watched that one MMO RPG anime, the one with the I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. That was cute and silly, and I thought it was another great handling of an overpowered character. Not as great as One Punch Man, but it was cute, and it was nice, and I guess I'm a little biased. I don't play a whole lot of video games, but when I do play games, I do play to defense. I do play to the point of defense where I buff my defense so high that if you hit me, you heal me. That is kind of one of my play styles. It's been a play style of mine for pretty much as long as I've played any sort of game. When I played Magic the Gathering, I would play a green and white deck, and I would pack it full of healing cards that I could tap once per turn and gain life from them doing that, things like that. Or play cards that would let me steal life from my opponents, things like that. I tend to play towards defense. Kind of like the main character of I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. And I do kind of play in the same style as her. I'm not playing to win, I'm just playing to have fun, to make friends, things like that. And so I really liked that representation of that sort of character, because you don't usually see that. You usually see, oh, I'm going to be the very best, I'm going to win, things like that. And so it was short, and it was kind of stupid, and my brother dislikes the idea of a character who just kind of goes along and accidentally becomes OP as fuck. But I liked it. I've watched some of Ishizoku reviewers. I haven't seen all of it, but I liked it because it was funny. It was funny. It was porn, but it was comedy. And I liked the characters, and I liked the idea of leaving reviews of brothels in medieval times. And the different interactions between the different species, and the ways different species would have different opinions on different kinds of sex work and things like that. That was really fun. That was beautiful world building as a story, in my opinion. Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. I have read more than I have watched, and it's kind of the reverse of Blue Exorcist in a way. It's this human boy who gets sold to a devil by his parents, and the devil adopts him as his grandson. And it's cute, and it's silly, but it's also dramatic. It has these epic, badass battles between giant monsters and magicians. It has these soft, friendly moments between school children and things like that. It's got a little bit of everything, and I really like that. It's fun and cute and silly. Nanbaka is a prison anime, but it's primarily a comedy. It's a comedy prison anime. I don't think they're going to do another season, which is really sad, but we've got 2 seasons of Nanbaka, and I don't know if the webcomic has updated since the last time I read it, but it's primarily a comedy, but it also has these really dark, really gritty moments. It has, it's just over the top and wild and out there. It's got supernatural, it's got sci-fi, it's got comedy, it's got, it's a prison anime, but there's also, notes of human experimentation. There's also, supernatural, because you've got pyrokinetics and chi benders, or whatever they are. You've got, talking dogs, things like that, and, it's funny. It's funny, and it makes me cry sometimes, but I know it'll be okay in the end because someone will come along, and if they don't kiss it better, they'll just punch you until you've got some sense knocked into you. Goblin Slayer I watched with my brother, which Goblin Slayer is what I wanted Attack on Titan to be. It's humanity versus monsters. Goblin Slayer is what Attack on Titan had the potential to be, but Attack on Titan veered off course and got super political, and Goblin Slayer is humanity versus these monsters that are evolving and getting smarter and picking up tricks and things like that, and after watching Goblin Slayer, I started reading it, and I like the small intricacies of the characters, but I also really like the idea of not actually naming your characters. None of the characters have names proper. You've got Goblin Slayer, Priestess, you've got the elf archer, you've got the dwarf, the lizard man, the farm girl. There's like 2 different paladins. There's like male paladin, female paladin, I think. There's various magicians. There's a handful of rookies, and none of them are named. They're all they're the one character who actually seems to have like a vague name is the Sword Maiden, but even then that's just a title. And that's a really cool concept. I'd never thought of anything like that before. I don't know if I'd ever seen anything like that before. Like, you might see, like, a character in a franchise that has something like that where they're just named after their occupation, but never an entire cast. And I really, really liked that. That was fun. Promare is another thing by Studio Trigger, so you probably know from my ranting earlier, I really liked it. Promare is, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's beautifully animated, it has a lovely soundtrack, the characters and the relationships and complexities between them are amazing, and 99 out of 100. The only reason it got a 99 is because one of the characters is practically Kamina from Gurren Lagann, and you could have been more original with that, but other than that, everything else was just perfect. And I've watched it something like 6 times by this point, and it's gorgeous. And my brother, when he watched it, he said it set a new standard in animation for him. And that the combat and the fight scenes and the camera angles, he went off. He does animation and stuff. He and I are both artists. However, I do more things like bookbinding and stuff like that. Bookbinding, paper pulling, printmaking. And my brother does a lot more digital stuff. So he ranted a lot about that, and he thought that was all wonderful and cool and badass. Hunter x Hunter. I have watched, I have not read. My brother is encouraging me to find some place that has it so that I can read it. It's another interesting one. It is, I never thought I would see children so sociopathic. That is all I'm going to say on the matter. I never thought I would see such sociopathic children outside of like a horror movie. And I don't like horror. I'm a big bitch baby and I hate horror. But Hunter x Hunter is, so far, from the anime and what I've watched, it's amazing. I'm not gonna say top 10, but it's definitely a really cool one. Record of Ragnarok is a newer one, I think. It's one my brother and I are both reading, and it's literally a tournament between humanity versus all of the gods to see whether or not humanity is going to survive or be obliterated, wiped out. And oh my God, I love it so far, and I love all the designs for the gods, because a lot of times when you see gods designed in fiction, they all fall into sort of this same pattern, this same script, and yet with this, oh my gosh, the character designs are unique and amazing, and it's characters that we all have seen and known, like Thor and Loki and Odin, Zeus, Heracles, Ares, Shiva, and then there's all these historical figures like Jack the Ripper and Lu Bu, and we know these people, we know these characters, these gods, these deities, we know them, and we know quote unquote their designs. And yet this franchise, Record of Ragnarok, comes along and just turns them all on their head, and it's like every design I'm looking at and it's like, oh, that's so cool. And then the fights too on top of that are so over the top and so dramatic and moving and emotional, and I want more of it. And I don't know if I want it to be animated or not, because if it gets animated, there's the potential to ruin it. But also, if it gets animated, that's a lot of really cool fights. Like, I don't want to say anything about it, but okay, so the first tournament fight is between Thor and Lu Bu, and the second one is between Zeus and Adam, and the third one is between I can't remember who the third one's between. Poseidon and some Japanese swordsman. I can't remember his name. Fuck. And then afterwards it goes to Heracles versus Jack the Ripper, and the current fight we are on is Shiva versus sumo wrestler, historical sumo wrestler. I can't remember his name either. Fuck. But it was like the list of the human names. It was like upcoming we have Nostradamus and Nikola Tesla and Rasputin, and it's like, what the fuck? How the fuck are these men gonna fight? I want to see that. I want to see their designs. I want to see them fight. It's gonna be so cool. Record of Ragnarok is so far amazing, and I want it to keep going, and I want to keep reading it. And it's just fucking awesome. It is over the top and amazing and emotional, and something I never thought I would ever see, because you do see humanity versus the gods all the time, but you don't see humanity versus the gods in a tournament. No, it's always this brutal, bloody war with this one hero who's like a bastard of the gods and men and things like that. Not this whole thing where humanity and the gods are agreeing to like sit down and have this civil little tournament. Which that's just cool. And then the last thing I have on my list here is Lupin the Third, which that's another old one, but it's Lupin the Third. Now that I've started watching it, I can see so many references to it in pretty much everything else. It's another one, I think, that it's an old one, but without it we would not have anime as we know it today. And it's silly, like that's kind of the whole premise of it. It's silly. It definitely has its dark moments, it definitely has its sad moments, it definitely has these very emotional spots, it definitely has these dark, gritty parts, it definitely has these things that aren't so silly and lighthearted, but for the most part, it's just this silly, lighthearted series about a phantom thief, essentially, a gentleman thief, and it's... If you don't know anything about Lupin the Third, I believe Netflix still has one of the movies, Castle of Cagliostro, which I believe was like Miyazaki's debut as an animator, if I remember correctly. Was he started on Lupin the Third, don't quote me, never quote anything I say, but Lupin the Third is glorious. You've got these very silly, dramatic characters. You've got these very epic, cartoony chase scenes. I've seen Castle Cagliostro. I've seen the Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan crossover movie. I have watched all of Part 1 or Green Jacket, and I'm starting on Part 2 or Red Jacket. I am like 30 episodes into Red Jacket, and Red Jacket has like close to 200 episodes. Lupin has, I believe, 5 parts to the anime, and a variety of movies, which I simply cannot find the majority of anywhere. Castle of Cagliostro I saw on Netflix. The Detective Conan crossover movie I found pirated on YouTube somewhere. I don't know if I'll ever be able to find it again. I kind of stumbled across it on accident. But then there's also, like, I've heard there's, like, the Red versus Green movie where it's, like, Lupin vanished and now everyone in the world is impersonating him and stuff like that. And Lupin the Third is kind of my current anime obsession. And it's a good one, and if you haven't seen any of it, I recommend you at least watch an episode or two. If nothing else, try Castle of Cagliostro, which is something like an hour and a half on Netflix, I think. Don't quote me. Like I said, never quote me, never ever quote me. If you couldn't tell, I really like anime. I've spent the better part of an hour ranting about it. Part of the reason I like it is because, as I've said earlier, a lot of American stuff that I'm typically exposed to, all feels the same. It all feels like I could just change someone's name and that's this movie then. Things like that. But with anime and manga, it's all very weird, all very dramatic. There's something for everyone. You've got sports anime, you've got baking anime, cooking anime. You've got mech anime, you've got space anime, you've got future dystopian, you've got medieval, you've got historical, you've got your supernatural, and there is absolutely zero qualms about just taking like 6 different genres that have nothing to do with each other and just mashing them all together. I would not be at all surprised if there was like a medieval space anime with like 6 different supernatural elements. I would not be at all surprised. Hell, I'd probably watch it. Anime has like zero qualms about taking your sports anime and putting ghosts in it. Has zero qualms about taking your magical girl and putting blood and guts in it just for the heck of it. And anime is weird and out there, and it mixes things you do not think should be mixed until it is done, and then you look at it and go, oh, but that works. And for that, I really like it, because it exposes me to these new ideas, and it makes me think of new ideas, and it also kind of opens up different perspectives on writing and creativity and the like. And for that, if only because of that, I think everyone should watch at least one anime in their life. Even if it's, like a boring vanilla one, even if it's just a very basic bitch anime. I can't think of any basic bitch anime, honestly, because each one is very unique. Each one has its own strong points, its own weak points, its own characters and ideas and concepts, and their own... It's very hard to liken anime to one another, in my opinion, because they all have their own ways of handling things. It's all weird, it's all unique, and I wish more pop culture was like that. But it isn't, so I have to deal with it. And I have to deal with being an otaku nerd But if that's what it takes to have some variety to my pop culture, then I will accept it. So there.